One of the biggest misconceptions as a leader is that working hard equals progress. But unfortunately, it doesn't. I've worked in organizations that they work 12-hour shifts, they skip lunch, they always answer their emails even after work, and the organization, it still struggled. Why? Because unfortunately, activity doesn't equal progress. The real problem is because everybody's moving. That's fact. But everybody's moving in a different direction. So operations, they had one priority. Finance, they had another. Human resources, they had another. Clinical leadership, they had another. Middle management, they were just attempting to make everybody happy. Meanwhile, all of the staff, they were just trying to survive the week. Nobody intentionally tries to work against each other. They only were doing the best with what they had. They were trying to make the decisions based on where they sat. And this is how organizations end up with friction. Organizational friction is anything that prevents vision from becoming a consistent execution. It's not dramatic. Sometimes it's just duplicate work. Sometimes it's just competing priorities. How many times have you seen that? Sometimes it's departments who are trying to work through the same problem, but they're doing it 3 different ways because nobody realized that they were working on it. Meanwhile, the organization, it stays busy, but they didn't get momentum. And as a leader, you hear a ton of comments, such as, but I thought this was a priority, or nobody told us that changed, or why are we doing this again? And this isn't a communication problem. This is an alignment problem. So what can you do? What can you do to fix that? Well, number 1, you need to make your priorities painfully clear. Because most leaders think that if they communicate the priorities, then everybody gets it. The reality is they usually haven't communicated it clear enough, and then they realize later on down the line, this is when we have friction. People don't need to hear vision just once. They need to hear it consistently. Every project, every meeting, every major decision, they need to see how everything loops around and matches the vision that was set to begin with. You need to ask yourself one question. How does whatever that decision is moving you towards your goal? And if you can't answer that question, your team won't be able to either. Number 2, you need to break down the silos. Departments are really, really good at being an expert in their own silo. That's good. You need to have that subject matter expert. But they've become really blind as to how their decisions and how they function affect everybody else in the organization. So you need to create opportunities that they can solve things together, not just updates, but sit down and have conversations and solve problems together. When people actually understand what decisions and how they actually affect other departments, that collaboration becomes much easier and then vision becomes more clear. Number 3, measure the alignment, not just performance. Most organizations, they measure productivity, and that actually does a really good job of making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But very few actually will measure whether or not that they're moving in the same direction. So ask a question. Do people actually understand the priority? Can employees explain the organizational goals without looking them up? Do managers communicate the same message? This is absolutely the most important piece, because if you don't have leadership communicating the same message, you're going to end up getting confusion, which ends up turning into that friction. Are the decisions that are being made reinforce the strategy, or are they competing against it? Those answers will tell you more about your organization than any productivity report that you end up turning out. At the end of the day, people aren't failing because they don't care. They're failing because the system is creating that friction. And most friction you remove, the easier it is to execute. Because leadership isn't about getting people to work harder. It's about getting everyone to move in the same direction. And that is how vision becomes more consistent in execution. If you want to identify hidden habits that actually creates quiet friction within your department and within your organization, VA Solutions, we've created a 10 leadership mistakes playbook. This helps leaders realize the decisions that they're making and where it creates that friction. It is a practical self-assessment that helps you recognize the leadership behaviors that often lead to misalignment, poor communication, reactive decision-making before they become bigger problems. You can download it by the link below. And if this video helped you, follow along, because we're going to continue to talk about practical ways to continue to reduce organizational friction and to help leaders turn vision into consistent execution.